Hey guys, I'm here with the amazing Tom Quayle, one of the great fusion legato heroes, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And today we want to talk about his playing a little bit, and maybe we start with your guitar. What is it?
So this is my third Ibanez signature guitar, which is kind of a crazy thing to say. This is the TQM2. It's very similar to the original TQM1, but we've changed some of the visual elements of it, and also a big difference is the pickups. So the original had a top wood that was called Monkey Pod, which is the weirdest name for wood ever.
Okay.
And it was all like it was a very brown guitar. It was all kind of natural woods, but it looked cool. But I wanted to go back to a kind of flame maple vibe for this. So we went for the flame maple with the older body, same as all the other AZ guitars, with a roasted maple neck. And the two big changes, the first was the matte finish, which I do a lot of video work, and it's really bad under hot lights, like sticking to the guitars. True. And the reflections
you always
as well.
have to clean the guitar.
You always have to clean the guitar. It's covered in fingerprints and
exactly, yeah.
You're sticking to it and stuff. So this was a really useful thing. And on stage as well, like today when Martin and I were playing, you get really hot. You know, it's nice to have this satin finish, which is really easy to play. The neck's always been satin, so now it matches all over. And the other huge addition was the pickups now are TQM, like custom pickups that Ibanez have made for me. So they're much lower output. This is not the best tone to describe this with because it's super high gain. But the idea is that basically they're really dynamic. When you use lower output pickups, I'm sure you know this anyway, but when you use lower output pickups, you get more dynamic range. You have to push them harder to get really high gain, but they sing a bit better and they're more open sounding and they have much more dynamic range. So the deal here, you can go incredibly quiet with this. So if you're playing melodies and you want to So you can really go from like really clean dynamic stuff to full on, you know, with nothing but the volume control. Yeah, super cool.
Well, your playing makes me smile. It's like
that's great. Thank you.
It's very cool when I'm in a room with you and you play. It just gives me this satisfaction because everything is so clean and smooth. Talking about smooth, what do you do with your sound? Do you like roll off the tone or something, or do you have like a specific preset that is really dialed in?
I just like really smooth sounds. So like I tend to have a nice amount of mid-range, just enough high-end for clarity, but not a lot of high-end. I don't like spiky, pokey sounds. I like kind of smoother sounds, bass to taste. But basically, I think the way I play, because I do dig in, but not very often. So my pick attack is generally quite soft as opposed to, which gives you more transient on the notes. So that helps as well. But no, the tone is on full. I'm just on the bridge pickup. I'm not doing anything unusual. Again, I think the lower output pickups help with that. They give you a rounder, more open kind of sound, so more vocal quality to it.
I think it's great to hear that a lot of professional players actually tend to use lower output pickups. I just saw an interview by Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yes, exactly.
Famous Yngwie Malmsteen. He was talking about his old Stratocaster guitars and that he just was specifically looking for low output Stratocasters, which you wouldn't think of with high gain sound. So it's.
Well, you can always, like his thing, like a boost or some kind of like you know, stick a tube screamer in the front, and you can have as much gain as you want. Obviously, with something like this, I use real amps. I don't use modelers.
Oh, interesting.
So at the moment, I have this collaboration with Laney, with the Laney Lionheart loud pedal, which is like a very small analog 60-watt amp. It's a clean amp primarily, but all my overdrive is from overdrive pedals. And just like with amps, you can stick something in the front end of those and boost them and get as much gain as you want. But if you have only high output pickups, you're always going to have that kind of slightly edge of breakup, gainy sound. Whereas with these, you've got this massive range of sound. And if you need more gain, just stick more boosts in the front end of the amplifier. It's what guys like Andy Timmons do all the time. They have a very basic kind of clean sound and then stack things up to get each of their elements of their tone. And low output pickups allow you to do that really, really well. So it's a nice thing. If people haven't tried it, check out low output pickups for your, don't assume you're going to get a great tone out of high output pickups and not a great tone out of low output pickups. It's not always that way.
True. Why you still decide to use a real amp? Actually, for me, it's kind of surprising to hear because a lot of people, I'm not included, but a lot of people kind of think about a fusion sound or music as a more generic music in case of that, okay, I can use more modern technology and modelers and stuff like that. And I think using real amp is kind of a statement nowadays and old school.
It's weird, isn't it? But yeah, it is. It is a statement. I mean, actually, I think Martin and I today at this festival are the only people using real amps. Paul Gilbert's using real amps as well. But the only guys, of the generation after him or like the modern generation guys, they don't use amps on stage at all. Now, I own all the modelers. So I have a Quad Cortex, I've got the Fractal stuff. I don't have a Kemper, but this sounds great. And they're great for me at this volume. So this tone, super easy to play. It feels super comfortable. It sounds really nice in the room. I think this is like a full range speaker. And I've owned all of that stuff. But when you get to gig volume for me, it just doesn't translate. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have the immediacy.
Oh yeah.
I'm weird. I can feel latency quite strongly.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the latency is on these things. I can't feel it to the point where I can tell you it's this amount of latency, but I can feel it when I play, especially fast stuff, the legato thing. So I don't like the latency, and also you have to do all of this high cuts and low cuts, and tailor it to the room and so on and so forth. With the Laney stuff now, we've got these tiny little solid state 60 watt amps that are all analog. They're completely immediate. There's no latency at all. They feel like tube amps, so they've got all that dynamic range. It's this big, it's 60 watts, so it's insanely loud.
Oh yeah.
And we have an XLR out on the back that goes straight to front of house with an impulse response, and that's it. That's as digital as it gets, just the impulse response. And they're amazing. They're absolutely astounding. And for traveling with, like, it's smaller than this. It's like this big. And I have a pedal board with it on, and it goes in the overhead. And we rent cabs wherever we go, or we DI.
Oh yeah.
And it's killer. It's amazing. And I'm just used to it. Like, I've played tube amps my entire life because I'm the generation that, maybe the last generation that grew up just with tube amps. We didn't have modelers. The pod wasn't out when I was, studying or becoming like a guitar player. That came out later, and so I kind of missed all of that stuff a little bit and then got into it later. But for me, amps are where it's at, and I think they're beautiful as well. Like, I have a collection of tube amps at home, all racked up, and a switcher and all that stuff, multiple cabs, and I just love all that stuff. I'm too old to get away from that now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a great thing. You made a great point, actually, especially when it comes to the response. And you said how immediately the tone is, and I made the same experience even with wattages.
Yeah.
Like a 30 watt amp is not it's not so immediate as a 100 watt amp.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, especially for your playing, it totally makes sense to me that you use a real amp and with even higher wattage.
Yeah, actually my favorite amp of all time that is not like one that I'm either endorsed by or whatever, that I've had a hand in designing, so an amp that existed before I did, if you like, is the Silver Jubilee, the Marshall Silver Jubilee, which is a 100 watt head. Really great clean sound, amazing overdrive sound. And I remember hearing Wayne Krantz use one at the 55 bar in New York, really loud.
Nice.
Beautiful sound. That is something, that kind of dynamic range and the response is something I've struggled with digital gear. I think it sounds amazing, don't get me wrong, I really do. But I can feel when I play through this that, like, when I roll the volume down, there's a slight weirdness to the front end of the note.
True.
It is responding beautifully to what I'm playing, but it's a feel thing. There's like a slightly odd way the transient feels with the note that you don't get with tube amps. It's just like, it's all analog. And I'm the same with synths. Like, I collect synths and I'm obsessed with analog synths.
Okay.
I love digital synths too, but I love analog synths. I just love the immediacy of them, and like...
How many Moogs you own?
I don't own any Moogs. I've got some sequential stuff and a bunch of Korg stuff. Yeah, a whole bunch of synths, but no Moog stuff currently, yeah. Which is weird, I've got no room left though. I can't fit any more synths in my studio.
Yeah, I think it also fits your sound a little bit. Like the ones you mentioned sound a little bit more modern and up to date.
So I have a Prophet 6, which is like a super modern sounding version of the Prophet 5. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. Yeah,
Nice.
So that's become my new obsession.
Cool. You just mentioned Wayne Krantz, which leads me to the next question, because Wayne Krantz, I really like him. and I just saw a masterclass of him where he was talking that theory is not as important, and he is composing very intuitively, and which leads me to the question how you compose tunes.
So composing is something I don't consider myself great at. I've done a lot of composition. I find it hard. I'm an improvising musician first, and I'm never happy with what I've written. But I guess my approach would be similar in that I don't have a whole bunch of theory that's in my head and go, right, if I combine this chord and this chord and this chord, it's going to work really well. I'll kind of just explore the fretboard until I find some stuff that works nicely. And then usually chordal stuff first, so I like the sound of this particular chord or a particular groove that I like the sound of. Sometimes I'll work with a drum groove and just find something that works over the top of that on the guitar, and then write based around that drum groove. But one of the best process that I ever found, there's a friend of mine, a guy called Dave Bronze, a UK guitar player, who said to me one day when I was kind of being frustrated about composing, he has a lapel mic that he puts on his, like this, on his shirt basically when he's composing. And he just like sings rhythms into the DAW, whatever he hears in his head. So there's no like creative process break. Like he's just singing things into the DAW, not melodies, but just rhythms. So whatever he hears in his head, he can get down immediately. And then he kind of molds melodies and kind of harmonic things around those rhythms that he's heard. And the few times I've worked that way, it's been such an intuitive process. There's a tune of mine that I wrote called Tapioca, which is like a Chick Corea electric band style thing. And almost all of that tune was written that way. And it's like one of the tunes I'm most happy with in terms of the stuff I've written. So it's a really nice way of doing it. Just stick a lapel mic on, hear something in your head, sing the rhythm in, and then use the DAW to massage notes or play that rhythm on the guitar and find things that work. Because the immediacy of working that way is quite nice. Yeah, it's cool.
Amazing, very organic.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Nice. Maybe let's talk a little bit about your technique, because I think it's quite fascinating. I actually bought a very old DVD of yours from Lick Library.
Yep.
It was the first time when I got into like the melodic minor, Lydian dominance and stuff. And you kind of introduced me to the hybrid picking thing. And I just saw you in person finally playing it, and it looks so much more smooth as if I would do it. So maybe you can explain a little bit how you really approach that hybrid picking thing and how you get it so smooth.
So the hybrid thing for me is not necessarily the way that a lot of guys do it. So you get this thing where in the country world you have this chicken picking hybrid thing where it's like a real aggressive kind of vibe, like that snap. Oh wow, that's a lot of delay. I was actually going for the opposite sound. So when I do the legato thing, what I want to do is try and avoid accenting string changes. So if you take a real simple scale, just a G major scale, when you play, I play 3-note per string stuff a lot. And that means that every time I shift to a new string, you get an accented sound because you pick the new string and it sounds different to the hammer-ons. So when I first started doing legato, it sounded a lot like this. That is a lot of delay. I have no idea how to turn that off. I apologize. That wasn't me. So you're hearing this group of 3 because I'm accenting the string changes just by default because I'm picking them as opposed to hammering on. So for me, the hybrid picking was like, it was a way of making the string transitions sound more like the hammer-ons or the pull-offs. So now when I play, I brush very lightly, and then the next string that I play, I'm very lightly brushing with the middle finger. And it's a very different sound to where you've got this pick attack. So when I play kind of faster legato lines, it's not easy to tell where the string transitions are in that, as opposed to if I did, you can hear all of these accents popping out. So that's why I do the hybrid picking thing, but it has a lot of other benefits as well because you can do string skipping much more easily.
Oh yeah.
Those kind of things. Or things like stuff like that, basically, where there's bigger interval jumps that are easier to grab without having to jump the pick from string to string. And I got a lot of the legato thing was kind of something I was hearing, but the hybrid picking interval jumps are all Greg Howe kind of things.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of his. spent a lot of time learning his material. So a lot of that vocabulary is from him. All this kind of like, that kind of stuff. Anything that's got big jumps in it is probably from his playing. And Wayne Krantz does this stuff too as well. There's quite a bit of kind of hybrid picked kind of interval jumps within his stuff as well. The key thing is to not pull really hard, to keep it soft and even. So all the accents, there are no accents jumping out left, right, center.
But are there not certain scenarios, especially when it's like a more jazz context, that you want to have accents?
Absolutely. So it's not a question of not playing accents ever, but so I would sort of put it into two different sides of a coin, if you like. So when I'm playing fast legato runs, so like we did this tune today in C sharp minor or E major, and like I tend to play some fast legato runs in that, and it will all be based around like 16th notes or triplets. And when I'm playing those lines, I don't want the accents. I just want everything to be very even. So if you hear like, that's very even. But if I'm like, that's a very different approach, and the hybrid picking and the pick notes, they'll have accents all over the place. But it tends to be from more melodic based material rather than the fast stuff. When I'm playing the faster subdivisions, I don't want any accents popping out at all. And because I don't want them coming out when the string transition happens, because then I'm not in control of the accents. I want to be fully in control of it. So I tend to bring everything down so that there's this evenness to it, basically.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, I have another question. For players who maybe want to reach your level, they probably won't reach your level, but want to kind of get your sound and play like you, I think in general, guitarists have a question they have to ask themselves if they want to be more kind of towards the legato side, if they want to play, if they want to be a legato player, or if they want to be
like a right-hand guy,
like Joe Bonamassa or Eric Johnson, who picks a little bit more, maybe with economy picking or something like this. But what would be a tip? What are the basics? Like, would you start with like transcribing Alan Holdsworth and getting that down, and then maybe getting the hybrid picking in, or where to start if you want to really get that fusion, very fluid sound going on?
I think it's all about making sure that when you play the technique, you're separating the subdivision from the number of notes per string. So what I mean by that is when you play 3-note per string, which you probably will be if you're playing legato stuff, and picked stuff as well, but legato stuff where you can't accent things as easily, make sure that you're perceiving groups of 4 if you're playing groups of 4. So when you play through scales and exercises, make sure that you're understanding that rather than 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 all the time, you can perceive 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1. Because the weird thing is the number of notes that you play on the string for guitar players tends to dictate how they feel things rhythmically. So you feel like this is the beginning rhythmically and this is the end rhythmically, and as you get to the new string, you've got a new group of 3. You need to get used to this idea of separating the string number, or the number of notes per string, from the subdivision. So I spent hours like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is weirdly hard to do if you've never done it before. Because you're playing these groups of 4, but you can't accent like you can when you pick. If you pick that stuff, you can accent every first note in the group of 4, but with legato you have to feel it. And when you've got that down, that you can feel those subdivisions. So if I kind of that's the thing that's different about this way, of the fusion way of playing legato, as opposed to like the Joe Satriani, where it's like there's no dega subdivision. It's like this liquidy, it's awesome, but it's a different sound. So getting that separation of string, number of notes per string from the subdivision is super important. I hope that makes sense. It's a little confusing thing to explain.
Makes absolutely sense.
Cool.
Thanks for the insights.
My pleasure.
Very clear, nice to understand. Thank you so much. And we just talked a lot about technique. Maybe we get a little bit into the theoretical side, like how you're thinking when you're improvising, and maybe also keep in mind, like for a beginner player, maybe how to start theoretically, what they should start with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first thing, obviously learn your diatonic chords, so your major scale harmony, like the major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished kind of thing, just the triads. Make sure that you can play them if you're in the key of C, across one string, like the one set of strings, and then doing them in position as well. Make sure you know all of the inversions. So this basic stuff is super important. Just going through basic major scale triads, do that for your majors and your minors, because that's going to give you a good grounding for where everything is on the fretboard. Then the next thing to do is to learn all of your extended major scale harmony, so like 2-5-1s, secondary dominants. So when you hear people doing things like, instead of playing just like, my shapes are going to look weird because of my tuning, but this is a C major chord.
Oh, it looks like a normal minor chord.
It does. So my tuning is weird. But if the guys use your ears, you'll hear it's major. Normally chord 3 would be E minor, but learning that it can be a major that leads to the 6th chord, some of this extended harmony. That's a really good place to be. So you've got major scale harmony nailed. You know all of the 2-5-1s that lead to each of the chords. So you could, for instance, do like... and extend all of this major scale harmony out. That's just 2-5-1s leading to different chords within the key, basically. That's a great place to be. If you know that stuff, you can play 95% of songs that have ever been written that anybody would want to hear. And you'll understand how they work, and you'll understand how to solo over them, like what scales fit, what arpeggios fit, that kind of stuff. It's not a small amount of work, but that's a great place to be at if you can get to that point. That's an awesome place to be.
Perfect. Then maybe let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, how would you consider yourself? What is your main influence? Are you more a blues, jazz influenced player, like when you grew up? Of course, everybody changes through time. Or are you more like a classical influenced player?
So I'm ashamed to admit I never had a blues phase, and I wish I had. I really do. My influences go like punk to start with, very early, really quickly into kind of Metallica, Iron Maiden, shred guitar, Dream Theater, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, very guitar-based stuff. And then from there into basic fusion, then really hardcore into jazz, like really like crazy into jazz. And then from there back into the fusion world. So that's my kind of journey. So I never had a blues phrase. I'm disgusted with myself. It's terrible. I really need a blues player. I'm a terrible blues player, really terrible.
You really develop your own style, so I don't think it matters. And you studied jazz, so I think it's a big, they kind of go with each other. It's depending on each other, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like my version of a blues would be the...
Exactly.
That thing.
That is blues, just a
different kind of blues.
Different style.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's great that you're saying that, because I think a lot of kind of rock and metal and fusion influenced players, they don't want to learn jazz.
Yeah.
But I think especially if you want to do fusion, I think
it's essential.
Jazz theory is
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely important.
Learning to play through some standards, understanding how they're constructed, how you play over them, how to analyze them, and then how to hear them as well. Because fusion is basically a lot of jazz harmony mixed in with rock and shred and funk and, you know, whatever. That's the term fusion, you know, it's whatever you want to put in there. But its primary thing is improvisation and deeper harmonic content. So you need those two things down in order to play that style authentically. So it's really important that you play at least a little bit of jazz. And jazz is one of those things where people think there's a lot of gatekeeping goes on with jazz. Oh, it's really hard. You need to be so good at this, and you need to be like, oh, you need to study for years. You don't. To play jazz reasonably well, you need good time, That's really important, but you should have good time anyway when you play music. And you need a decent understanding of harmony, like a reasonable understanding of harmony. And then there's so many jazz standards that you can play that aren't insane, that you don't have to go straight into giant steps, you know. There's other, like lots of standards like, you know, Autumn Leaves or Blue Bossa or whatever that are very approachable. You only need to know a few scales and you're in basically. And it really trains your ear. And improvising is such an important skill for me. It's like, it's the litmus test, as they say, of like, can somebody actually like express themselves on the instrument without pre-learning something? That's cool too, by the way. You know, I love classical guitar for its kind of fixed nature and how technical and difficult and beautiful it is. But improvisation for me is like the litmus test of, is somebody really hearing and, you know, listening to what they're playing and able to express themselves on the instrument freely. So that's totally my bias though. And somebody else could have a different opinion, but that's the way I think about the instrument and music generally.
Talking about that, because you were talking about, okay, you just need a few scales to start maybe, but how would you consider how important is vocabulary when it comes to legato playing actually? Do you really need a lot of licks that you learn transcribing, or is it more intuitive, and actually are you having more like fixed points on the fretboard where you try to hear where to go? Or is vocabulary still very important in fusion legato playing? It
is important. It depends what you're doing. So I have like vocabulary that I've developed. It's not just mine. It's come from other people, but it's kind of, you are an amalgamation of the things that you learn. So it's unique to me, but maybe not entirely unique. And they're basically things that I've learned, little fragments of information. So not long licks. They're small bits of information like this.
This stuff is important.
All these tiny bits of information that you can then combine into longer lines. So whenever I play these, like in C minor, that's not one lick. It's a combination of like, I think I started out. So then I maybe played an arpeggio. Then a little bit of a scale thing with some chromaticism, and then I move around. So it's not a fixed thing. It's not like I've learned a lick. I'm trying to think of an example. There was a lick that I learned years ago by Pat Metheny that went, that would be the kind of small fragment. It's like a 2/5. I'll play it with some sound. So that is fixed, but it's small. So it's a small fragment. So I can take that first bit.
Basically like a pickup for you.
Yeah, so you have enough of those little bits of information. Exactly the same way that when we're talking now, and obviously you're talking in English and it's not your first language, so you had to have learned it. Did you learn it as a child or an adult?
Teenager.
As a teenager. Yeah. So again, you've not got that kind of sponge brain as a small child.
Yes.
So you learn it by, you learn small bits of information, vocabulary. Like I would, you know, if I said, ich spiele Gitarren, you know, I know what those words mean, and I can only say that fixed phrase. I can't say anything else with those words. I can't combine them in any other way. But if I spoke the language for long enough and immersed myself in the language and had all of these little small bits of information, I can combine them into longer, more complex sentences. And then I can manipulate the sentence in different ways, and I can change the structure of the words. I can have past tense or future tense or present tense. I can use more adjectives and describe things in different ways, you know. And that's what's going on here. So this small piece of information, you know, there's so many ways. There's an endless number of ways you can combine these small bits of information all over the fretboard, and that's essentially what's happening, these little fragments of information, and they combine into bigger things, basically.
Amazing. So maybe, do we have like an upcoming record or something?
I've been talking about this for years. I do, but I haven't released it for a long time. Actually, what I've done now is moved into I've started releasing software for guitar players. So I have a software company called Trio Software. And in COVID, we released an app called Solo, which is a fretboard visualization app to help guitar players. And it went straight to #1 all over the world in the music app store charts for
Amazing.
iOS. And it's become this crazy business that I now have to run. And I have 2 other guys that I work with. And we're about to release our second app. So that's been taking up almost all of my time.
Cool.
We've started kind of beta testing it with various guitar players in the UK, and then we're going to expand it across various parts of the world. Hopefully going to release later this year. So
What is this app about?
I cannot tell you.
Oh, it's a secret.
It's a secret because when we released Solo was completely unique. Nothing like it existed on the market, so we had to keep it secret so that somebody else didn't take the idea. This is also completely unique. Nothing like this has ever existed before. So I'm not telling anybody what it is until we have all the information in place and the marketing in place and we know what we're doing. But it's essentially designed to make you a better musician. That's all
amazing.
I can say at this point.
Perfect. We have something to be excited about.
Yeah, cool.
Well, Tom, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For this amazing interview. It was
Really enjoyed it. It's great.
It was very, very fun.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.